evening, positive people. Buenos noches. Bonjour. Bon dia. Buongiorno. Ni hao. Memenjes. Dobre utro. Namaste. Sawadi. Chawim. Manganang hupang. Como ye. Sopa walang sung. Assalamu alaikum. Privet. Guten Tag. Kalimara. And as they say in some neighborhoods, what's good? My name is Kevin Booker Jr.
And I'm Daisy Torres.
And welcome to the Cultural Flip Side.
Buenas noches, mi gente. Gracias por estar aquí con nosotros en otro día especial. Gracias, gracias, gracias. Muchas gracias. So, hi, Kevin. How are you? How's it going?
It's going well.
Awesome.
I see you got your hairdo looking all fly today, you know, as always.
Thank you, thank you. I appreciate
Absolutely.
that. Thank you. Yeah, you know, it's finally summer season, right? We're just getting into that, as you know, Will Smith says, right? That's summertime, right? You know that's my song.
Summertime.
It's my favorite season, as I've always keep saying, and so I'm in a really good mood. I'm excited. How about you? How you feeling today?
I feel good today. You know, I mean, when I was driving in today, going to work this morning, you know, I'm sitting down, just listening, and I start listening to Montel Jordan. You know, so it brought me back to like high school.
Yeah,
this is how we do it. This is how we do it. This is how we do it.
It's Friday night.
And
feel alright.
Yeah, got me doing a walk now.
Okay.
All right.
It's actually Tuesday, guys.
Sorry,
oh my gosh, you know,
sorry, Ron.
You see Ron, is he? I don't know.
Sorry, Ron, but we're just having a good time here on the Cultural Flip Side. You know what I'm saying?
That's it.
That's how we feel.
That's
right?
it.
That's how we feel. We feel like it's Friday. Yeah, that's great.
We're all dealing with so much. You got so
know,
much going on.
I know.
And music just makes you feel
Right?
so good.
I love music.
Yeah.
Love music.
So what have you been watching on television?
Oh.
Uh-oh.
So somebody on Facebook, a friend of mine, got me onto The Godfather of Harlem. With Forrest Whitaker?
I watched all episodes.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
I'm like hooked.
Wow.
The next one come out next week. I'm gonna watch it.
See, I'm just like getting through this season.
Well,
and I'm
it's
like,
popping.
wow,
Oh, yeah.
where was I? Because, you know, I was into
Bumpy
Power,
Johnson.
and now I'm into this. It's like, yeah, Bumpy Johnson, exactly.
Bumpy Johnson.
Oh, my goodness. It's
An
a great
Italian
show.
mob and the conflicts that go
I
on
like
internally.
it.
Oh, yeah.
I really, really like it.
It's juicy. I know.
I'm
and
glad
addictive.
I'm watching it. Yes, very
I know.
addictive.
I know.
Oh, my God, I have to stop. Like, I don't want to binge watch. That's how good it is.
I know.
Right? But yeah, what are you
Who's your
watching?
favorite character on there?
Well, I like Bumpy. I
You
love
like Bumpy?
I think he's the man. I like him a lot. That's right now. I mean, I'm still early. Remember, I'm still getting to know, some of the characters. But I love him. I like his style. I like his personality. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, you're gonna love it.
I know.
I don't want to ruin it for
I
you.
know.
I can't tell you
Just
everything.
don't.
Can't tell you all the episodes in there.
We'll have to talk about that another
Absolutely.
time, right?
Absolutely.
Like compare. But what are you watching?
Well, of course I was watching Godfather Harlem. Like, gotta definitely check that out. And then I went to the movies and I saw A Quiet Place 2.
The first one. Is that with who's the actor in that one?
I
What's
forgot
his name?
the
The guy from The Office?
I think it is the guy from The
Yeah, if
Office.
it's the guy from The Office, that was a really good movie, the first one. I didn't even know they had a
The
part
second
two.
one, I was in a movie theater like this. I was like,
Oh, I'm going to have to check that out because I didn't know about that.
I had to bring in my hoodie and everything.
No, you didn't.
Oh my God, yeah.
No, you didn't.
Oh yeah.
Are you scared? You scared? You scared. Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
boy.
Oh, wow. I didn't know they had another. They just released. That's awesome.
Yeah,
I wanna
you're gonna
watch
enjoy
it.
It's a good date night.
Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
I haven't gotten back to the movies yet.
Oh.
Is it
Yeah.
empty? Is it full? What is it like?
It's they separate the chairs and everything, so you gotta still be careful and everything.
Right.
You make sure you have your mask on, take all the precautionary measures.
Got you.
Extremely important.
Yes.
But I had a great time. I still have my big bucket of popcorn and and just sit down and relax. So I missed that part.
Right. That's wonderful.
And you also get to see all the new movies that are coming out as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, like I told you, I've been hooked on these women in power movies too. Like women in, you know, these these drug cartels and things. I don't know what it is. Like it's like this women empowerment. I don't know. I'm sort of into that, and you know, that's like something that I'm also binge watching.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's.
And you know what's interesting? You talking about women in power. That's what our show is focused on today.
I know.
And when I always think about women in power, for me, I grew up with women in power. You know, all the women that helped me become the man I am today were very extraordinary women.
Absolutely.
And women who will understand the power of education, women who understand the power of perseverance, who had a very strong work ethic.
Absolutely.
And who have motivated me on so many levels. So when I think about women in leadership and roles, taking on those roles, you know, I have the utmost respect, because I wouldn't be the person I am today if I wasn't surrounded by strong-minded, highly intelligent, open-minded women who continue to persevere and push the envelope to the next level.
Absolutely. One of the women that was very influential in my life was my aunt, who she taught me a lot about independence and working hard, work ethic. She introduced me to theater and things that I probably would have never known.
Absolutely.
She's a lawyer. She worked hard. And you know, I just learned so much from her, and so yeah, I completely know the power of influential women in your life, right? Which is why we're so excited about our guests today. I'm really honored to have 3 of my colleagues from Hartford Public Schools joining us. 3 phenomenal.
You said 3 of your colleagues.
3 of my colleagues, right?
Yeah.
So 3 phenomenal women in leadership roles and doing great work in our public school system in Hartford. And so I would love to introduce them and have Ron bring them on. We have with us Dr. Tarisha Batchelor. She is a principal at Rosenstein School. We have Holly Gustafson, who is the principal at Breakthrough South Magnet School, and Lindsay Thompson, principal at Environmental Sciences Magnet School at Mary Hooker. Now, Lindsay, that's a mouthful. I'm just going to say that. But welcome, ladies, to our show.
Thank you.
We're so excited that you are joining us today on the Cultural Flip Side. And so we want the viewers, I know you, right, in a professional capacity, but I would love our viewers from all over the world to get to know a little bit about you. So I'm going to ask you to just tell us a little bit about yourself, the work you do, and maybe something that, you know, personally in your life that you're willing to share. So I'll start with Principal Thompson. If you want me to call you Lindsay, fine, but you see I'm still in work mode calling you Principal Thompson, right? Then I'll follow by Principal Gustafson, and then Dr. Batchelor. So we'll start with Principal Thompson.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, Daisy. Welcome. Thank you for having us on tonight. So I'm Lindsay Thompson, proud principal of Environmental Sciences, Maxwell Mary Hooker. It's a mouthful. We call it ESM for short. And I actually grew up in Minnesota and started my career as a high school math teacher. Moved out to Connecticut about 12 years ago, taught high school math, and then started moving up towards becoming a principal. I never wanted to become an administrator. That wasn't something ever in my initial thoughts as being an educator. But over time, that became an area that I wanted to be able to move into, just to impact more students. Some things about me personally, I love cooking and baking, and in the last year I've tried to go on a different hike or walking trail every month, and so that's been kind of an exciting thing to explore here in Connecticut. There's lots of things to do, and so I've enjoyed some of that time as things have slowed down a little bit because of the pandemic. So thanks for having me.
Thank you for being with us. Holly.
I'm next.
Yes.
All right. So I am Holly Gustafson, and I am the proud principal of Breakthrough Magnet School South. We have, the reason there's a South in the word is because we do actually have 2 breakthroughs, which confuses a lot of people. But ours was the original Breakthrough Magnet School in Hartford. I also grew up in Minnesota, similar to Lindsay, which we didn't realize until a couple of years ago. I also did not ever think I would become or aspire to be a principal. I started as an elementary school teacher, moved out to Denver, Colorado, spent about 10 years in Denver, but it was my first principal that must have saw something in me that I didn't see in myself, and he really encouraged me to go down that path, and so became like a dean of discipline at that school after I had taught there for a while. Got my administrative degree. Then we ended up having twins and realizing that we wanted to be closer to family, so moved out to Connecticut here about 15 years ago, and also did some teaching at Breakthrough, then became an instructional coach, then became assistant principal, and this is my second year as principal. Wow. So I've been at Breakthrough for 14 years. And the great thing about that also is I was also a parent. So my own children attended Breakthrough from pre-K 3 through 5th grade. So that was really special to have my own kids there as well. Yeah. Just a little bit about myself. I also love to cook. I love to spend time with family. I saw The Quiet Place too.
Oh, everybody but me.
That's right.
Yeah. So my twins are 16 and a half. And so I asked I knew my son and I both love scary movies. So he was like, let's go see it. We went and saw it. We loved it. We thought it was just as good as the first one. So I highly recommend it.
Oh my
God. It was.
I said,
I agree.
I'm in. I'm done. I'm watching it. Awesome.
Gotta see it.
Thank you so much for being with us, Holly. Dr. Batchelor.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Tyresha Batchelor, and I am homegrown from Hartford. So I'm a Hartford native. I went through the Hartford Public School Systems. Go Buckley Bulldogs, graduated from Buckley.
Woo!
And, yes, go Buckley Bulldogs. Unlike Holly and Lindsay, I've always wanted to be a principal. I started my career at a very early age, at 16. I was in a daycare center working, and the daycare really gave me the opportunity to see not just the side of working with students, but also the administrative side at a very young age. As a high school student, I was actually running the daycare during the summers. So I saw the administrative side, and I always knew that eventually I would be moving out of the classroom and into that seat. Something about me that a lot of people don't know is that I'm a foodie, but I'm really a food connoisseur. So I don't like cooking the food, but I enjoy eating the food and traveling to spaces so that I can eat different types of food. Something special about my school, we are a STEAM school, we're a K-5 school, and our students love to explore the outdoors. So providing a lot of opportunity for the students to be in the neighborhood. Our students know almost all of the neighbors within the perimeter around our school. And that's something that I'm very proud of, it being a neighborhood school, to make sure that our students are actually going out into the neighborhood and making sure that it's impactful. So I enjoy what I do. I've been at the district for 26 years, and this is my home.
Thank you. Welcome.
That is awesome. And Dr. Batchelor, the Bulldogs, I graduated from the pub. You can't rock the pub. So,
Yes.
This is my family. We argue about the pub and the Beavers all the time. And, the Bulldogs trump everyone because, you may have the pub, but we have the best program. And now Buckley is actually growing teachers. So what do you have to say about that now?
That leads me to success right now, No, that's awesome. I love seeing that kind of energy, and it's good to see somebody come back to the city and the community as well and giving back so that the students can see an example of what success means on many levels. And that goes for the three of you, because the three of you, I know you have dealt with your own obstacles and barriers in your life, but you continue to persevere and continue to move forward despite all the odds stacked against you on so many levels. So that leads me to my question is, how do you define success? Because, success comes on many different levels. And, through our lives, as we get a little older, being on this planet for a while, we go through our obstacles and challenges, success changes. So how do you define success? And I'm going to start with you, Holly. And then I'll just move right around. I'll go to my Buckley graduate there, and then I'll move right to Lindsay right there to be last. Okay?
I was hoping I was going to be last. That's a tough. That is
I know.
So to define success, and like you said, it changes, but I feel like it doesn't have to. Even though we all have titles, right? Like the three of us women were in principal roles, and we have the title of principal, but I don't think that is what defines success. I feel like for myself, personally, success for me is I am doing what I love. I'm making a difference. I'm making an impact, and I'm happy. And I am able to use that, like my gifts, to support and make other people, like lift other people up, I guess.
Awesome.
Love it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Principal Gustafson. Thank you. Dr. Batchelor, how do you define success?
So I think success is kind of a moving target, and you have to constantly redefine it. And success for me is knowing that I'm doing something that's impactful and that there's growth. So when I think about the most successful things that I've done, it's kind of things that I'm consistently working at. So being a successful, you can feel like you're a successful principal one day, and then another day you feel like you're not successful at all. So you have to constantly redefine it, and actually look at what your growth areas are.
Very, very nice.
Have to constantly look at what your growth areas
I
are.
agree. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Always continually seeking to improve and self-reflect and continuous improvement and growth, right? That's really important. Can't stay static, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And just to add to that, it's similar when you think about anything else that you do in life. Like it could be a relationship, and some people say, "Oh, we have the best relationship." But if you have not gone through a struggle and have gotten past it, then how successful is that relationship? So I think of that too with my staff. When there's bumps in the roads and we have to pivot, when we get on the other side, that's when we know that we're running a successful school. It's that no matter what happens, we can pivot, we can move quickly, and we can adjust and still come out and reach some of our goals.
Yeah, really, really important information there. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And one of the things I think about with any journey, but particularly when you're thinking about your journey into administration, for example, right? There's always been the power of mentors, right? People along the way who have maybe inspired you or just really given you that support. And so we're wondering, and I know, Holly, you talked a little bit about it, but, I'll start with you, Holly, and then I'll go to you, Tyresha. What or who may have inspired you to become an educator? That's a really important one, because I think, we often, when we start to reflect, right, we find that there are influential people in our lives that made a difference for us. So we'd love to hear. Holly.
Yeah, so I grew up with a father for a teacher, so I was immersed in that. He was a high school physical education and health teacher, and then he also coached football and baseball, and I have two brothers, so I grew up around school and sports my whole life. And definitely my dad he was definitely my role model, and I think by the time I was 5, I was like, I'm a teacher, I'm going to be a teacher. But then, like I said, my very first principal of my first school, when I was so young, starting out at age 23, not even any thoughts about being a leader. He's, again, saw something in me, definitely a huge role model, and supported me along the way. And then just recently, having a couple of female mentors at Breakthrough. So our founding principal, Norma Newman Johnson, who founded Breakthrough, was definitely a role model and a big support, and supported my leadership growth. And then Julie Goldstein, who was the principal before me, who is now a principal at another school in Hartford. I owe a lot to her, because she really made sure that all along the way, as she was principal and I was assistant principal, she allowed me to kind of spread my wings as a leader and helped me take those steps, I guess, to then feel ready when I became principal.
That's so
Wow.
important. Yeah, definitely. How about you, Tyresha? Thank you, Holly.
Well, in 1991, I was a teacher, a kindergarten teacher at Annie Fisher School, and the principal was Vivian Richardson. And Vivian Richardson was a short African American woman. And I was not used to seeing many women who looked like me as administrators. And I remember one day we were outside in the parking lot. We were about to come in. We had gone out for a PD. I was working with her. She kept me close because she knew that I needed a mentor. And as we were walking up to the building, someone approached her and said, "You can't park there. It says principal only. You're parking in the principal's slot."
Wow.
And, she got really close to the person, got very close to their face and said, "I am the principal." And at that moment, I thought, like, wow, if she can do that, I can do that too. And she had been telling me all along, there's going to be, I see the potential in you. You're going to be a great teacher. But at that moment, I really saw and I thought about the fact that we need more people that look like us to be in these positions so that people don't underestimate what we can do. And she remained a mentor until she left and she moved on to the South because she got to retire. But she's been a great mentor. And then it's also good to have mentors that are outside of education because, you want to keep yourself grounded. And sometimes as a principal, I think we solve problems based on the resources that we have or the way that we've always done things. So I have an aunt who's in human resources at the college level. And so she's also my think partner because she helps me to think outside of the box. So she's my other mentor.
That's awesome.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Very, very important. The power of mentors. Lindsay, we have you back. With a question that we were posing is, really what or who inspired you to become an educator?
Yeah, so I'm sorry about this technology. You'd think that a whole year or more than a year of doing Zoom, I'd have it down. But so who really inspired me? My parents have been a constant inspiration for myself. So they've always encouraged my sister and I to go after whatever dreams that we had. So whether that was through education or through other means, they encouraged that no matter what. The two of us my parents did not go or finish a trade school or college, but they continued to keep pushing us through the entire time and didn't settle for us just kind of working mediocre. That was always their kind of push and mentality with us, is that we had to do our best no matter what. And they always knew that when we didn't, they knew quite quickly. And so always encouraged us to do our best. My dad's family, majority of my aunts and uncles and cousins are in education. And I grew up with a very positive conversations about being teachers. One of my uncles was the lead of a technology department in a large school district. And they just always spoke so positively about their role. And my aunt actually worked at the high school that I grew up attending. And I had good friends that would consider her a strong mentor, and they continued to stay connected with her even after they had graduated. And to me, that just really showed the impact of a good educator. I never heard complaints about, now we hear a lot of complaints, about pay or overworked educators. I just didn't hear that. And I know they worked a lot. I know they worked extra and they put in that. But the way that they framed it for me and for the rest of our family was encouraging. And I think that's a testament to a lot of my cousins also continuing in education. And so that's a bit of a legacy within my father's family. And then just as I went through school myself, of just having other people pushing me or encouraging me along the way, I had a special education teacher I worked with when I was a math teacher, and he always pushed me that I was going to become a principal one day, and I didn't want that job. I didn't want that stress. Now I think it's a great role. It's stressful, but it's a great position. I love it. But it always kept pushing me and pushing me. And so I started looking into different things or different programs that I would be able to attend while I was still teaching. So over time, I've really appreciated those words of encouragement. And in my first few years as a principal, I had an executive leadership coach, and he really pushed me to think beyond what I thought I could do and gave ideas and encouragement, and was just someone that I could really rely on to be a sounding board. And that was always really helpful, because I felt safe in that space to learn and grow. And he didn't tell me what to do. He didn't tell me what he would do in those situations. He just encouraged and pushed me to try new things and to think about my role in a more holistic way. The best advice I have received in the last probably 3 years is that as a principal and administrator, your plate is always full. There is at no time can you have an empty plate, but it's how you consume what's on it. And I've thought about that a lot in the last year in particular of, our work is never done. There's always one more student you could reach, or one more parent you could talk to, one more piece of paperwork you have to file. But it's how you consume it and kind of your attitude around that. And that's really helped me filter a lot of the work that I've had to do each day. And so I think it's really important, just like Dr. Bachelor said, of keeping strong mentors around you in your life. And sometimes that I think can be hard because you hold long hours sometimes. And so to make time and space for it can be challenging. I know that's been a challenge for myself.
Thank you very much for sharing and being vulnerable as well, because that's exactly what it takes sometimes in order to inspire and help others along the journey. And as you said, Principal Thompson, as a principal, your plate is always full. And when you think about this nation, we still have so many obstacles and barriers that we're still working through, and glass walls that we're still trying to break down on so many levels, whether it's gender inequality or racism. There's so many isms that we see and face on a daily basis. And the three of you, extraordinary women who continue to break those barriers on a daily basis. When I think about the challenges that many of you have faced, and you go home and sometimes people have no idea what you're dealing with on a daily basis, but you put on that mask, you stay positive, and you continue persevering, and you continue pushing forward. And it's such an honor to have you here on the Cultural Flip Side, because many people have no idea what you face and how many obstacles you had to endure. So the question I have for you is, have you faced any challenges of discrimination on your rise to leadership? And what was that like for you? And how did you get past that obstacle? Or are you still going through those challenging moments? And how do you also become that example for other women on their way up as well? I'm going to start with you, Dr. Bachelor, and then I'll go right to you, Principal Gustafson, and then I'll go right to you, Principal Thompson.
Okay, sure. So that's a great question. And it's a question that a lot of people don't ask because it's not there. A lot of times people are not ready for the answer. So people don't ask that often.
That's right.
But for me, I'm going to call myself young. I had a birthday yesterday, but I'm going to call myself young. So as a young Black female, I encounter discrimination quite often. And I use the term intersectionality because we have to know that it's not just my gender or my race, but sometimes it is a combination of it that will have people perceive either my request for support or my request when I'm advocating for my students, or when I'm looking to get into a different leadership role. I have to ask myself, is this about race? Is it about gender? Is it ageism? So I think for me, as being a Black woman, I have the extra layer of having to try to figure out which is it about me, because there's so many reasons why people can look at me and say, you know, maybe she should not be the person in this role. And so part of what I do to, you don't really overcome it. You have to learn strategies to work through it so that you can continue to be successful and to break those barriers so that the next person coming into the position will have less discrimination to go against. So for me, what I often do is I question. I ask a lot of questions. So when I'm told no, I'm pushing the envelope and asking, why is it a no? Is it a no for just my school, or is it a no for all schools? Is it a no for me based on what my student needs are, or is it a no because of budget restraints? And asking questions, asking those critical questions, helps the people who are sometimes they're discriminating against you, and it's implicit bias. It's not as if they know what they're doing. A lot of it is their learned behavior that they have to unlearn. So I ask a lot of questions. The other thing that I do is I make sure that I dot my I's and I cross my T's. And even when I'm not feeling confident, I'm going to appear confident. So I'm going to make sure that people see the best of me, even when I might feel tired or exhausted, because it is exhausting always having to explain. Like, I'll give an example. Oh, Dr. Batchelor, are you a real doctor, or did you get your doctor online?
Wow. Oh my
And
gosh.
you know, and so those are the type of questions that I'm asked, and sometimes I'm asked those questions actually in spaces where some of my staff are. So I was in a meeting and someone asked that, and then I said, well, I went to UConn and I received my doctorate there. So do you think UConn is a reputable school or not? And again, there goes the question. So you decide. And then next follow-up question is, where did you receive your doctorate from? I think that what you have to do when you come up against discrimination is to learn to not take it personal. So it's not as if they're attacking me, Tyresha, because they don't know me. They're attacking their own beliefs, right? So they have these beliefs of what a young Black woman is or what she should be able to do. And so I remember that it's not personal. I ask many questions and I bring my best, and I work on my confidence. And it's an ongoing battle. I remind myself, I have my affirmations where I remind myself that I'm good enough, I'm strong enough, and that helps. And then I model that.
Thank you very much, Dr. Batchelor. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Principal Gustafson. I hope I didn't chop your name up there, but
It's a hard one, and that's why most of my students and my families call me Principal G or
Okay.
Miss G, but it's Gustafson.
well,
It's a
Principal
hard
G, what comes to your mind right now as you were listening to your colleague, Dr. Batchelor?
I think that, you know, something that probably all three of us have in common is the fact that we're female leaders, and we're young, right? We're all young female leaders. And so we won't say our ages, of course, but I think that even just me looking young, and I've always looked younger than I am, you know, is great when you get older, because you feel like, oh yeah, you know, I don't have whatever, all the wrinkles, but it definitely, I definitely feel like, maybe not discriminated against, but kind of looked at like, oh, you're the principal. I've had parents, you know, meet me for the first time and say, you're the principal, you're so young, you know, and they don't mean it in, or I don't take it like Tarisha said. You know, you learn a thick skin when you're a leader, and you know, I learned very quickly not to take things personally, and just to be confident, like also like Tyresha said as well. And I think one of my challenges as a female leader was I always felt the need, and I still struggle with this, but of people, like being a people pleaser. You know, I have to make sure everybody's happy, right? I want to make sure every student is happy, every family member, every parent. every community member, and that's impossible. That you're never going to make everybody happy, and you're going to make hard decisions, and you have to go with your gut and do what's best for your school and for your students and for your families, right? And that's not always going to align with everyone's beliefs. But I think that this year, a growth area for me that I felt is that I have been more confident in my decisions, being a second-year principal, and not feeling like I have to make everybody happy, because I can't. And I feel like I model that. I have modeled that for my staff. I have a teacher, Danielle, and she is now going through her administrative program, had her classes this year, and she aspires to be a principal. And she's told me, that she looks up to my leadership, which, is great. I'm happy because that means that I'm doing something right, or I'm influencing her in a positive way.
Excellent.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Principal Thompson, you were listening to both of your colleagues. What comes to your mind at this point?
Yeah, I've had similar in the sense of people not recognizing you as the principal, which sometimes is kind of a sneaky trick because you can walk into a space and learn a lot more information. They don't know you're the principal or an administrator, so that I've used that to my advantage maybe once or twice. But when you've introduced yourself as the principal, or I've had parents who haven't met me before, maybe I've spoken to them on the phone, but they don't assume right away that I'm a principal or I'm the principal of the school. I might be at the front door and I'm greeting families who are coming in because I'm just covering someone's lunch break at the time because the office staff maybe there's less office staff that day. And some people will come in and ask to speak or things like that. And I'll say that's who I am. And they'll kind of, what? You're so young. Or I thought it was a man. And I've been a principal here for 5 years. And I send voicemails and things like that. And so there's things like that I think, it gets a little bit under my skin, but in some ways I kind of feel like it's a bit of a booster, like a challenge in some ways, because I think it's it's a great position to be in because I know, and in particular, my school is an environmental science themed school. And so we focus a lot on the sciences. And I think it's really important that all of our students see themselves in positions they're interested in. So specifically science, which has been historically very few women had been going into that field. So a lot of our children now haven't necessarily seen leaders in those fields or people that are close to them who explore those careers, even though they should, and they're great positions. And so I think it's a great privilege to be able to be leading a school to ensure too that I'm bringing in a larger representation of our student body, whether it's guests or teachers that represent more of our student body. I think that's really important. Currently, my assistant principal is also a woman. And so I think just our leadership together represents something for our female students in particular, but for all students to have a woman that is leading. Now, in the sense of discrimination that I have faced, I was a math teacher for a long time, and I was always one of the few women in the math department classes. Even when I've applied for positions, majority of people in the waiting room are men, high school math teachers. All of my high school math teachers were male. And so I've, fought some of those questions of, people who question your answers on things, or they don't really think you have a good idea to share or a strategy to share as a teacher. And even in my advancement to becoming a principal, through the job interview process with a particular district, I had someone, as I, presented my background as a math teacher, and I was applying for a science school, and they were questioning my, background knowledge, if I had a strong enough command of science instruction to be able to lead the school. And at the moment, when the question was asked, I didn't think a lot about it. But after I thought more, I wondered why that would be a question, because my background, although I wasn't a science teacher, a math instructor, and have taken, science courses. So I just thought it was an interesting question, maybe subconsciously, them questioning my ability to lead a science school. But I also wondered if other people who were male maybe didn't get those questions, which I wouldn't know because I didn't, I don't know who they were interviewing, but it just made me think. So I think it's little things like that. And I agree with both Dr. Batchelor and Principal Gustafson too, of you can't let it get under your skin. And I think taking it as like little sparks of, yes, I am in this position and it might be a unique thing. And I'm going to use that position to ensure that we have excellent education here in our school building and that others see it's possible to be in this role too. I think that's really important as a female leader and as a leader in general to really make sure that it's possible for people you're leading too.
That's really important what you were just saying, Lindsay, right? And the power of really believing in the importance, right, of seeing strong leadership. And so, it made me start thinking about, when I was in high school, I was selected to attend as a sophomore, one summer to go to Conn College in New London to attend a summer college experience as a high school student. And there were students all over the world who joined this program, and there was only 5 students from our high school selected at the time. So I felt really honored and privileged, and when I spent my time there, I got to really learn from college women, right, in leadership roles who were, very empowering and very inspirational, and who helped me to get out of my shell, if you will, and see and realize that leadership for women is real and possible, and it inspired me. And so I know that we talked earlier about the power of our mentors for us, but you 3, myself included, are also very influential for young ladies. So my question to you is, how do you see your role in supporting and encouraging other young females to take on leadership roles in education or their chosen career field? And so I'll start with Tyresha on this one. I'll go to Holly, and then I'll end with Lindsay.
I think the power of mentorship is really important. And I think that what we represent is the ends of a means. So unfortunately, a lot of our students don't make a connection between the courses that they're taking and what they're going to be doing in their careers. So you hear students say, why do I have to take algebra? Why do I have to take this? So as a mentor, it's important to make those connections for the students and to tell the stories. They see us as principals, but they don't necessarily understand the journey or how we got here. Because for me, it was not easy. It wasn't easy financially, or, managing, trying to make sure that my family was okay while I went back to school to get an advanced degree. That's right. And people need to hear those stories. And I'm not just talking about mentoring young people who are at the start of their career where, they have less obstacles. I'm also talking about people who are going into their second career, or people, who have struggled and went back to school. So for a lot of the people that I'm mentoring now, and I'm mentoring 3, so out of the 3, 2 are almost my age. And it's really giving those stories of, yes, it was difficult leaving my family on Thursday nights to drive all the way to UConn. And yes, I felt guilty leaving my kids, but these are the things that I did in order to get through that. This is the way I organize my time. These are some tips for what I did with my schedule. This is how I convinced my husband that it wouldn't hurt our marriage or our relationship if I went back to school. This is how, so these are the real things that you need to be ready to share if you're going to be a mentor. You can't just give them the textbook. You apply this to school, you complete the coursework. You also need to give them the support that they're going to need to go through it, because it's not just going to courses. It's also planning your life, changing your lifestyle so that you can be available, planning your lifestyle so that you can get those calls at 6 o'clock in the evening that, your child needs you to come home, but you're still at work because you're waiting for someone to pick up a child. So how do you manage that? So for me, being a mentor is making sure that I'm sharing all of the information about how I got here, And it also is humbling because it takes me back to, sometimes we forget, and we think I did it so someone else can do it. And especially being a Black educator, there's that, pull yourself up by the bootstraps and get it done. And we know that some people are more privileged and have more resources than others. And so we have to realize that. So I think being a true mentor means that you're really giving a part of yourself, to make sure that you're meeting the person where they are and giving them the real truth, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Thank you. So very true.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Holly.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Tyresha, everything she said. I also agree that just being vulnerable, being willing to be vulnerable, like she said, not, sharing everything about it, right? Because there's definitely challenges, but then there's joys as well. And then there's mistakes that we've made, right? So many mistakes as leaders, but then we learn from those. And I think like then being vulnerable to communicate that and be honest, like here are some mistakes or some missteps that and here's how I solved it, or here's how I got through it, I think is helpful. I also think just really being present as much as you can. I mean, like Lindsay said, we have, it's a nonstop job, but we also we have our own lives. We have, some of us have children, we have spouses or partners, we have, other things that we do, and so it's like part of it's balance. If you're going to mentor or model for future leaders, you have to have balance, otherwise you're going to burn out and it's not going to be healthy for you. And then I think also just making sure that if you are in a mentoring relationship, back to the being present, trying to set aside what's going on and really be there for that person, really listen to them. I love like talking to we're a pre-K to 8 magnet school. So, I have 3-year-olds all the way to 14-year-olds. So does Lindsay. And I love my middle schoolers, and I love talking to the middle school girls, and just like, taking the time to sit down in the cafeteria and have a 5-minute chat with them, greeting them by name every day, like, and looking them in the eye and making a joke with them, so that they can see me as a leader, that yes, I am the principal, but I'm also a real person and I care about you. And or asking them a question about what they're doing this summer, all of that. I think that's kind of a long. I kind of rambled a little bit in that answer, but that's kind of how I feel about mentoring.
Thank you, Holly. Appreciate that. How about you, Lindsay?
I mean, we're all here because of strong mentors or people that we looked up to, whether they knew it or not. That's the reason why we're all sitting here. And so I think it's a huge responsibility to mentor, whether that's very formally or just by your presence and connection with kids. I think a lot about it. So I was a high school teacher, and I've actually had, which you guys probably have as well, I've had several of my students' children now as students in the elementary schools, and that happens quick when you go from high school to elementary. But in some ways, I didn't really realize like the depth of an impact or potential impact you can have on someone, and thinking about more generationally. And so conversations that I've had with some of the students who I now have their own children when they were high school students, to think about the impact that time can have with them. So being honest, being real, listening to them, giving them space to talk about whatever's happening, and encouraging them to go after things that that they want to accomplish, and then seeing them accomplish those things as adults, and then raise their own family to then continue that same push and drive within their own children. And not to say that I necessarily had an impact on that, right? So all of our students are surrounded by a huge cloud of support. And but I think what I've seen now as a principal of elementary is you're just seeing the generational impact that people can have, whether that's good or bad. And so I think it's a huge responsibility of ours as leaders and educators just in general, to be very mindful of the lessons that we're teaching our children and teaching, even teaching our staff. I think of that, this year has been very stressful, and how have I modeled handling that stress? How have I modeled apologizing when maybe my response to something wasn't caring or could have been perceived as that, and that wasn't my intention, or that's how it was felt. And so I think all of that is really important, because we can model like Dr. Batchelor said, of, here's the formula to get through college and graduate school, and you put your time in here, you do this, do this internship, do this job, and you'll get out to your outcome that you want. But it's the everyday piece that is what continues to push and drive us forward. So looking for ways to be very honest and real in those moments, and being willing to be vulnerable, and that's hard. I think the position of a principal, you're the only one in the building that kind of feels or experiences all the things that you're doing. And so you have to, I take a lot of energy from being able to pour back into the students that we're working with, the students in my school, and help that be that continual encouragement to keep doing that and to keep showing up every day positive, encouraging them, pushing them, motivating them, but being an honest and real person too, because I know that that's what we've all needed in life, to get where we are and to be successful. So to continue to give that back to the people that we lead, whether children or our colleagues.
Thank you so much for sharing and being vulnerable about, just all the different obstacles and, what it is to be a leader within your building and also within your community as well. Because many of you have taken on those roles beyond your school building. And it's so impactful, and it's impacting generations. But as we reflect, this year has been a long and stressful year. And I see your heads beginning to nod here. And many people are struggling with depression, anxiety. As mental health issues are skyrocketing on so many levels. And people are adjusting to this new normal, however we want to phrase it or call it. And so many parents and students have been impacted on many levels this year. And you're in those roles and those positions where you have to take on that role to keep that positive climate within your building, among your staff, among the students, and even within your own inner circle, the group of you. And it's very challenging at times. So we know that this year has been probably one of the toughest years ever. And some days you come home and you're like, why am I doing this? What is going on? I don't know if I can make it. But the reality is you have made it this far, and you will continue to impact so many other lives. What words of wisdom or advice do you have for the listeners today who may be an administrator, maybe a parent, maybe a student, just people who are really just going through it on a daily basis? Like, how do you stay afloat when, you had those moments yourself? What word of advice do you have for the viewers and listeners today who are watching and listening to the show? I'm going to start with you, Principal G, and then I'm going to move to Principal Thompson, and then Dr. Batchelor, I'm going to close off with you on the words of wisdom and advice for our viewers and listeners today.
All right. Yes, it has definitely been challenging. And the fact that I started my principalship last year, which of course in March is when everything kind of shut down. So it was like first year principal in a pandemic. But I think that my advice is, I totally agree. Mental health is huge. And so for me, it's spirituality and prayer. It's making sure that you have a connection, you have like that support and community. And I have to say, like, these two ladies plus a lot of other ones that aren't here have been so supportive to me. So colleagues that I know, because I know I could go to any of the principals in our network and in our district and just say, hey, I'm struggling with this, and I know that they're going through the same thing. And so that is huge for me. Getting enough sleep, these are like the simple things, but like getting enough sleep and exercising and having fun and like experiencing joy. I think that, we really tried to do that with our students and families this year, is like, just be real, right? Like, this is a struggle this year. And so forget about the extra homework, forget it, don't worry if you feel like you're falling behind, what does that even really mean, right? Like, we focus so heavily on social emotional learning, mental health support, and just like joy and having fun. Like, how can we have fun? How can we be there for each other? And, that's definitely my advice.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Principal G, for your words of wisdom and advice. Principal Thompson, what comes to your mind?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges this year, I truly believe, like, all educators really want to do exceptional work every day. And the exceptional work has looked different, and you might not have felt successful. And I know that's a big challenge for myself, and not feeling successful, or day by day kind of feeling that, not sure what to do, not sure how to change it. You don't have the answers, saying, I don't know a lot. That took a huge toll, I think, on myself. And so I had to reframe all of it under the skies of, like, I've never been through something like this before. And so I needed to lean on others in different ways that I haven't done so yet. And so I agree with Holly, a group of principals that I'm able to connect with. I always learn something walking away, even from our conversation tonight. I've learned something from both of you, and I really appreciate how open and honest the principals in our network, and a couple of the principals have reached out in meeting, like, more socially outside of work, or connecting midweek. That's been great. One of my favorite times is Friday lunchtime. These two ladies join often. It's just a nice time in the week to connect with each other and to talk about other things. A lot of times we talk about work, but we do talk about other things to connect. And some advice one of my aunts shared a long time ago. She was going through a really difficult time. Is that something that she was doing is just taking a half a day at a time. So when things are super stressful, you might set a goal for yourself for half of that day to reach it at noon. And then you set another goal between then and going to bed. And that has helped a lot this year too. And just even talking with students or staff, like, what's your one goal today? And you'll feel successful in accomplishing it, and pushing them to do that, because in a time where everything's so new, it's challenging, because you're not going to feel so successful all the time. And I think reaching out and making sure you're getting the support that you need. Sometimes that comes in light of professional support too. So going to friends and family is really important, but sometimes recognizing when you might need more support and reaching out for that. There's lots of resources available to anyone to get more mental health support, and even through our own health insurance, they offer multiple different things that we can reach out to get support. Exercise, sleep, very important. It's the hardest thing to keep doing when you're so stressed out, but I think the most fulfilling. And for myself too, prayer, and having strong people around me to remind me of my focus and what I should be centered on, and that there's a higher power and purpose to what we're doing, that none of this has happened by accident. And there's purpose in each of the things that we're experiencing. So that has helped me through this challenging year.
Thank you very much, Principal Thompson. And Dr. Batchelor, what comes to your mind when you think about words of wisdom and advice?
Well, there's definitely power in the tongue. So definitely making sure that you use positive affirmations. We change a lot of the phrases because what we say, what we speak into existence will come. And so at the end of the school year, rather than putting on the board, there's 5 days left of school, I write, what can you accomplish in 5 days? So the power of our words. And for my staff, we have a wellness room, and so staff can go in at different times. There's a sign up because of course with COVID, everyone can go in at the same time. But I think it's actually making people aware of the fact that they have to stop and think about their mental health. Um, Sometimes people go, and then they burn out and they don't realize it until it's too late. So you have to remind people to slow down, to take care of themselves. Doing small things like taking a walk is helpful. So what I did is I put those things into our daily schedule, because if it's not in the schedule, it's not going to happen. So for professional development, before our staff meeting, everyone had to leave their classroom, and there was a certain place that they had to walk to. They had to grab something kind of like a scavenger hunt and then walk back and get on Zoom. So making sure that you provide space and time for teachers to do that. And then that's modeling, so that then the teachers find a space and time to do that with the students. Um, Teachers are control freaks, right? Because we want to control everything and we want to make sure that everything goes well. So I had to remind them that teachers, you are not in control of COVID. Um, so we have to identify the things that we do have control over, and the things that we don't have control over. We're going to have to find a different way to deal with them. And so we actually made a list of things that we could control. And then, so my message to the teachers is, take care of yourself and each other, and know what you don't have control over. And for my parents, I was constantly saying to parents, you're doing a good job. And I don't think we told parents that enough. I had parents who were working at home and trying to support 3 different children on 3 different devices. And so I had to constantly tell them, you're doing a good job. And for students, it wasn't a wasted year. A lot of people went, and people who are not in education are so focused on, okay, the district has money because the students are all behind, and no one learned anything, everyone is failing. And that's not true. Our students learned a lot this year. They learned resilience. They learned empathy, because they saw adults struggle, and our students were not really used to seeing adults struggle. They weren't used to seeing the teacher struggle with trying to get the Google Classroom open, right? And so our students learned a lot this year, and we have to remind them of that. Okay, so maybe all of our students are not reading on grade level, but what books did they read, and what stories are they going to be able to tell?
Absolutely.
And so I think that it was a difficult year, but we got through it, and that's the important thing. So we got through it together, and we still made it. My saying is always, we win together, we lose together. I tell my teachers, people are not going to go to the board and say Rawson is awesome, but that one teacher. They go and they say Rawson is a good school, Rawson is a bad school. So just bringing that collective efficacy that we're all going to put our hands in it and make it work. So although it was a difficult year, I'm proud of all the things that we accomplished, and I'm really proud of our students, because they stayed with us. They stuck it out.
Wow, all of you had really powerful words of wisdom or advice. So I want to thank each one of you. I know that we work together in a professional capacity, but I feel like I learned a little more from each of you. And just from my lens, it's just thank you for all that you do each and every day for your students, your staff, your families. It does not go unnoticed. And we know that you have been working, so hard, and oftentimes it's a thankless job. And we want you to know how much we appreciate you being here today on the Cultural Flip Side.
Absolutely.
Like we had mentioned earlier in the show, you are 3 phenomenal women, very different backgrounds and journeys, and just the work that you're doing for our Hartford community and Hartford Public Schools is truly amazing. So I just want to, say that, and I want to leave with the fact that my closing piece, because then Kevin's going to say something as well, is that I walked away, and as you're listening to each one of you, I learned about how powerful prayer and spirituality is, right? The power of being real. Collaborating with each other, like really just connecting outside of work and just, that social piece, so important among adults. And, to identify what we do have control over, right? And what we may not. And helping that to, really lead us and into a space where we are truly at peace and balance. So thank you again for being here. I truly appreciated hearing your stories. Kevin?
Yeah, I just want to say, it's an honor and a pleasure to have you on this show today. You are three amazing individuals, and the world is definitely impacted by your stories and your vulnerability today. So thank you so much for sharing your insight and having the courage to share, your journey and what's been going on within your school and also within your own personal life. So I really appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. And also touching on the spirituality piece, you rejuvenated me right now, because sometimes we go through the day and, just the power of prayer and spirituality to continue pushing forward, and always remember that God is always there, to continue living by faith and not by sight, right. When times are tough. And a couple of things that I jotted down was, provide space and time. Sometimes you need that space and time for your staff as also for yourself. And make sure, and all three of you said this, get some rest. Very important. And another thing that resonated with me was constantly say to your parents, you're doing a great job. So the reality is, and the three of you said this in your own way, that the kids learned a lot this year. They learned a lot. They learned a lot about character building on so many levels. And I appreciate you sharing that with the world, because the reality is they really did. And it made them stronger individuals in the long run. So in another 10 to 15, 20 years, when they're in those positions of being an administrator or, a teacher, they can also understand what it is to give back and also empower their communities as well. So thank you so much for being on the Cultural Flip Side today. We really appreciate you on so many levels. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
And have a wonderful day.
Yes. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, you too.
Bye.
Wow. What a great panel of guests we had today.
Oh my gosh, that was awesome. And it's just, thinking about, what Dr. Batchelor said, she said, we got through it together and we still made it. We got through it together, because that's what it takes. It takes coming together as a collective.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just strong words, right? And just thinking about, just the challenges of this year. And that, we often, which is absolutely important, right? Take care of your, our students, take care of our families, but take care of yourself. Right? You can't pour from a container that's empty. You have to take care of yourself, right? And so I'm glad that they lifted that, whether it's a walk or it's, check in with, a colleague, just something that brings you joy every day. I loved what Lindsay said about the advice that she received about, even if it's from the morning, just set a goal. Let's get half day goals, right? I love that idea.
That's it.
And that way you start to experience more and more success and you set more goals. And I love that. So, it was a great show.
Absolutely. So let's do
it.
Pray, because we all definitely need it. And that was something that resonated on today's show.
Absolutely. Right. We were writing it down.
Spirituality and
pray
prayer.
at the end of the show, every show, and they hit on that. So love it.
So God, thank you so much for bringing us together. God, please cover Dr. Batchelor. Please cover Principal G. Please cover Principal Thompson. All administrators and teachers and educators and first responders. Everyone out here who's just impacting people on so many levels. God, please cover them and their families. And thank you so much for this day. Thank you so much for this time and allowing us to come together in your word. God, we love you. We appreciate you. And we thank you so much for just being able to have this platform to be able to share and encourage each other. Amen.
Amen. Gracias por estar aquí con nosotros hoy. Recuerden que pueden orar en cualquier lugar. Gracias.
Remember, you can pray anywhere. If you don't want to pray at that moment, you can meditate, take a walk, whatever it is. Just continue working on yourself, continue being a better version of yourself. And I hope that you have a wonderful day and continue spreading positive energy around.
Absolutely. Adios.
Peace.